This is why we have to get out of this shit system that we're
Yeah.
in. And I can't stress enough. We just have to make what they're doing irrelevant, and then we win.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Pebbleton Post. I'm your host, Josh Lake, and I am joined today by Mr. Jonny Litecoin, who is absolutely one of my favorite proponents and enthusiasts of the cryptocurrency space. You can find him on Twitter at Jonny Litecoin. And yeah, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, Jonny. You are someone I look up to in the space, and I know just before we got online here, we had a really good conversation that I'm excited to bring to our viewers. So, before we get into it, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, love what you're doing. You're promoting freedom to the younger people, younger audience, which is amazing. We need to get younger people, younger generations thinking about freedom. And when the bad guys are just trying to take our freedom by 2030, we'll own nothing and we'll be happy. People like you give me hope that you know about sound money. You're promoting these ideas and concepts to people. You're making it fun. You're going around the country doing stuff, which is why I met you on one of Bix's and Lisa's events. So love what you guys are doing. Keep it up, and happy to be on the show and educate your audience.
Thank you so much, Jonny. That means a lot, because you're one of the people who when I first started getting into this, I think the first time I ever really heard about you was through Litecoin Lisa, because you do your show with her. And yeah, you're right. The first time we actually met was when I was working with the Road to Ruta, and Paige and I were on the road show with Bix and Amy, and we met in the Oklahoma City show when we had the big Litecoin Lisa event as well. And even in that time, just hanging out at the Airbnb and at the event itself, I got to see how solid of a person you are, and how much of a freedom lover and freedom fighter you are, and just how much education that you continually bring to the world through your posts on Twitter, through just the efforts that you make. And so really appreciate you coming on, and really excited just to have this conversation with you, man.
Awesome, man. No, thanks. Happy to be here, and happy to talk freedom. And
that's right.
No better way than in the digital age in which we live, of understanding these top cryptocurrencies and how to use them. And that's always been my mission of freedom, is to get this message out there to the public.
And I think one of the things that the public isn't totally aware of yet is that cryptocurrency is a tool for freedom. I don't think a lot of people see that yet. I think a lot of people still see it as an investment strategy, as just something that they can park some money in and hopefully it'll go up, but then they're going to take it back out and use the fiat instead of the cryptocurrency. Yep. They don't see it as a system, an alternative currency system. They don't see it as a tool for freedom. And so, that's what I'm excited to ask you about today. And before we get into all that too, if you can give just a little bit of background as to how you got involved with crypto. I know that you have some experience with the traditional financial system. So if you could just paint a picture, give a little context as to who you are, I think that would help set the stage.
Yeah, sure. So I was working in the credit card processing business and the point of sale system business. A point of sale system is a computerized type of cash register. So if you go buy something, they put the order into a computer screen and you pay. That's a point of sale system. So I was always involved with setting those up, placing those at businesses, involved with the credit card payments. So I got to see the back end of what goes on in this payment system. And when I started doing it, I was young, I was naive, I was hungry, and I loved it. And then after I did it for a few years, I realized there's a lot of issues and problems that go on that nobody has any clue about. So I started about 5 years into it. 5 or 6 years into it, I started questioning things a lot. And I was seeing so much fraud. I was searching for an answer to this, and I was going home scratching my head saying, how does this system even last? And I had heard about Bitcoin a little bit, and I had a buddy that worked with me in the payments business, he came in my office one day and he's like, you got to see this Litecoin transaction. And he's like, I got to show you something with it. And he showed me the back end of the transaction. And I was so blown away at the data. You could see how transparent it was, like a truth machine. And that was everything the legacy payment system is not. Payments go missing. We can't get information on our own clients half the time. There's so much fraud. It just gets washed away. Everyone's made whole at the end of the day. And I'm like, where's all this money come from that's making all these banks and financial companies whole? So it really clicked in my mind that I was like, this Bitcoin, this Litecoin, this is an invention that makes this system better. This is what I've been searching for. But I was like, how the hell is the public going to understand this stuff? They don't have no clue of the backbone of the regular payment system and the problems. So how are they going to realize what this new system is? And I was like, I can really get out there and help talk about this and promote this, but promote it in a way where I'm not pumping a coin. I'm not like, yeah, woo, Litecoin, it's going to go to the moon. I'm like, no, you want to use this as a lifeboat out of this system for your freedom. And in the business I was in, my first thought was for the merchants and the businesses that accept payment, because they always worry about fraud. And, credit card payment could have fraud for 6 months and they get beat for the charges, right? And they could lose money months after they took a payment. So I was like, wow, what a great option if they're taking a payment from someone that they don't know, they don't trust, that's far away, that's overseas, and they're worried about getting fraud or a chargeback. Bitcoin or Litecoin, this is a wonderful option. So that's kind of how I got my start. And I got on Twitter and, started talking about it and people vibed with it. And then the rest is history.
I think it's so cool that you saw this technology, you saw what it can do, and you just took it upon yourself to start educating people, with no incentive by the technology, by Litecoin itself. I mean, were you ever involved with actually the organization of Litecoin?
The foundation, no. I mean, they liked what I did, so they would I was on their Slack channel for a little while, and I'm still on there. They have a Discord, so I still go in there. I'm not a member of the foundation. I just totally did this just for my own goodwill and a need to get the message out there of freedom. I guess being in the credit card business for so long, it started not sit right with me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a good business. I was like, but the public's being misled. I said, and I'm kind of part of that because I'm offering these solutions and systems. So I said, well, and I used to blame myself for so much stuff. If the merchant had fraud, I'm like, it's my fault. And I didn't cause the fraud. I just put the cash register in there. And I was like, once I found Litecoin, I was like, wow, I kind of lifted that weight off my chest. I was like, I could talk about this other system and I don't feel so guilty and bad. There is an option, even if people aren't ready to use it yet. At least let merchants know, hey, request Bitcoin as an option. Try to teach them about it. And it just gave me that hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it actually cost me a lot of money to do this, believe it or not, because I was taken away from my regular business, which is really profitable, putting my time, money, and effort into Litecoin and crypto and going around and cold calling businesses, giving them flyers, helping people, spending days on end, helping businesses set up to accept Litecoin, Bitcoin, and other cryptos for payment. And there's no fees to collect on there as the processor, how I was doing it, which I'll explain a little bit later. There's different ways to set up the payment for crypto. And I always looked at it as a cash alternative. And I treat it like cash. So when we treat it like cash, it's just a peer-to-peer payment. There's no third party that's roping any fees on it. But I was like, you know what? If cash payments are getting less and less, and our system's always accepted cash, why not give this as an option to people? We're still going to get credit card payments, so we're still going to make money from that, but we can at least give this as an alternative to the people when they're not getting as much traditional cash anymore.
Well, I think it's so noble of you to want to teach so many, have the know-how and the excitement to teach others about this technology and the whole system of cryptocurrency, because I agree that a lot of people don't see this yet as an alternative system. That's really what it is. It's a way for us to, like you said, transact peer-to-peer without having a middleman involved, without having a bank involved, without having any sort of third party we need to rely on in order to make these happen, because the network of which it is running is decentralized. And I think that's one of the things that also people are still waking up to who are new to cryptocurrency, is that cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin or Litecoin, for example, isn't just a currency, it's a blockchain. It's a distributed ledger tech. And so what that means, could you actually, I think you'd have a better explanation.
Yeah.
What do you give? What do you tell people with that?
I used to tweet a lot about it and talk about it. It's a currency and it's a payment network. So I said it's a currency like the dollar or euro, or even, if you wanted to take it a step further, like gold, or like how silver was back in the day. But then you're really starting to get into the weeds of people. So if you just say it's a currency like the dollar or euro, and it's a payment network like Visa or MasterCard or PayPal, and it's like you took both those sets of features and combined them into this new type of technology. And what makes it a better currency from that angle is that it's limited in supply. And what makes it a better payment network than Visa, MasterCard, or PayPal is that you can't have fraud. So it beats it on the currency angle because it's limited in supply. The monetary policy is set in stone. It can't be, excuse my French, you can't fuck with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the payment network aspect, you can't have fraud. So it brings about some user responsibility, which, come to find out, a lot of people don't like to have responsibility. And that's kind of the problem that we're in. Mm-hmm. People like things to be taken care of for them. They don't want to have to take personal responsibility for things. And they don't necessarily want the freedom always. They just say, well, it's better if Venmo does it. It's easy to use. And the public is getting pacified with easy.
Yes, definitely.
That's the problem. And, Litecoin is super easy to use. I mean, really all you're doing is if you have a mobile wallet on your phone, you just basically scan a QR code, put in the amount that you want to send. The app will convert it for you. So if you're sending someone $50, you can hit USD value, $50. It'll convert it to Litecoin, which, maybe that's at the exchange rate right now, it'll like 0.6 something Litecoin or whatever. And you scan the QR code and boom, you hit send. So it's actually really easy. The hardest part that gets a lot of people is the legacy system of trying to buy the stuff. Mm-hmm. Uploading your ID, setting the passwords, a two-factor authentication. They can't get their face right for the KYC verification. The shadow on their license was this. It resends 10 emails. It's tricky by design. So about half the people I help, unless I really go there and push the buttons for them, they're like, oh, this Bitcoin is asked me so many questions. It's so tough. I said, you didn't even get the Bitcoin yet. You're still far system. You didn't even get past that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's the government that's requiring that. That's due to the USA Patriot Act. And because of the rules, regulations, and regulatory requirements of the USA Patriot Act, your financial institution has to gather this info.
And I didn't even realize that. I knew that it's been tricky, and I know that the learning curve to get started with crypto, once you're in, it's simple. Once you have the concepts down, but getting those concepts down takes a little bit of time, and I didn't realize that so much of the loophole, or the hoops you have to jump through in order to get set up, is because of the current financial system. I didn't realize that, especially the Patriot Act.
Yeah, most of it's because of the all stems of the USA Patriot Act and how they have to collect all this data. And then they make the companies that collected a honeypot of all this data, and then they're targets for hackers because now you get all this data, you hack it, they have to become data handling experts. So we're really in a weird world. And here's one thing I say, right, about this KYC.
Yeah.
People are always like, no, you gotta, they try to avoid KYC at all costs. And I tell people, like, you can't avoid KYC if you're converting fiat into crypto. It's just how the regular system works and what's required right now, right? And it stinks, it sucks, but it is what it is. We have to build systems that make this KYC irrelevant. Let's make it like rules for a typewriter. If you no longer have a need to use that typewriter anymore, and someone made these strict rules on how to use it, then you're like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm past that. We're past it. So if we don't have a need to go back into the legacy financial system, if more people learn how to just transact in cryptos, the Litecoin network, the Bitcoin network, cannot ask you for KYC documents. All the KYC stuff is all when you're in the legacy system. Bitcoin network, it's decentralized. You have the private key and you have the address you have to send to. You can send a payment. No one can stop you. So the more we stay in that ballpark, in that area, we make the other system irrelevant and do all the KYC you want. We got out of it. We're in this system over here.
And for the people listening, KYC, if you haven't ever had to do that, that's called Know Your Customer. And what that is when the platform that you're using in order to transact or transfer fiat dollars, into like Federal Reserve notes into cryptocurrency, you have to show who you are through some sort of identification, usually a driver's license. And is that it? Or is there like more than that? Do you have to give your social security or anything?
Sure. I mean, KYC, and it's not just for crypto. Even in the credit card processing world, we have KYC. It's just required for all financial products. Social security number. A lot of times, it's always a picture of your license. A lot of times, it's a scan of your face.
Right.
So a lot of people that haven't done a lot of this stuff recently, as far as apps and financial apps in general, they're not used to this period. So when they get their information asked, but you know what? I don't need to buy Bitcoin. I don't want to give up all this info. And it's like, no, that's the exact reason you should be buying it, because we have to get out of the system. And they did this to us with this USA Patriot Act. They did this. They forced this upon us. And this is why we have to get out of this shit system that we're in. And I can't stress enough, we just have to make what they're doing irrelevant. And then we win. If we play too much in that world and we're too focused on fiat and we don't look at the currency aspect of it all, then they got us right where they want us. We have to come back through their toll and they can control everything we do.
And I really like the topic of freedom when it comes to cryptocurrency. And I think some of the things that really define cryptocurrency as a better alternative system to the fiat system, the financial system that we're currently in, is, one of the things we're talking about now is privacy. Ultimately, once you're in the system, once you're transacting with Litecoin, Bitcoin, whatever it is, it's the term I hear used a lot is, I think it's pseudonymous, where it's anonymous in the sense that you don't have your name. It's transparent in the sense that you can see every transaction on the blockchain. You can see what amount goes from what wallet to what wallet and when, but that code, that information doesn't have your name on it. It doesn't have any other information the way that when you use your credit card or your debit card or whatever, it's got your name on it. It's got, I think you have to use your address when you're doing a transaction as well to make sure that's you. That information isn't there.
Not only that, just to show you how the legacy system, there's no fixing it. Every time you use your credit card at a business, that business has a copy now of your credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you say, well, they didn't see my credit card, I tapped it on the machine, doesn't matter. They can call the processor and say, hey, I had an issue with a transaction. Can you give me the credit card number and expiration date? And the processor says, yeah, sure, no problem. And they'll give it to you they don't ask any questions. Yeah, sure, no problem. Here's 20 credit card numbers. Here's 50 credit card numbers. Take them, right?
Mm-hmm.
With cryptocurrency, they can see you sent money from one address to another. So they might say, okay, I know Johnny was the controller of that address because he sent it to my address here. But that's it. You could just see how the payment was sent. You could see what's in that wallet, but you cannot take money out of it. And that's the gaping hole in the regular legacy financial system, that there's no stopping money from being taken from it, because Bitcoin was an invention to send money from point A to point B without sending a copy across the internet. Before Bitcoin, everything was copies that were sent. So everybody had a copy. Everyone you send a credit card payment to now is a copy of that card. And they'll try to encrypt the data. They can do whatever they want. If you get your hands on that credit card number and expiration date, you can run the card and take money from it. And I've seen a lot of sophisticated scams in the credit card business working in that world of refund scams, and how credit cards money is refunded to them from the merchant system. Half the time the merchants don't even know. A lot of times it's inside jobs, it's employees doing it, and they're hitting small refund amounts back to their own card, and it's just like they're giving themselves it's the easiest way to steal. You don't need any gun, you don't need anything. Most of the time the people don't know, and you take money right from their bank account to your bank account, and it's all done through the Visa system. And the other thing is too, they talk about how money laundering, cryptocurrency, and you hear that a lot. I want your audience to realize all the money is laundered through the traditional financial system, because just most people don't understand what money laundering is. Like, let's go back to like the movie Scarface, right? So in that movie, classic example, they walk into a bank with bags of drug money, and then they want that bank to launder the money for them, and then the bank will write them a check to a business or an LLC, right? And then it makes it seem like, okay, this money was legit from regular business, and the money went to a business, came from another entity. That's money laundering, because now as the criminal, you have legitimate income. The regular legacy system has automatic reporting requirements built into it. This reporting structure is built into it, which is a prerequisite to launder funds. You need that automated reporting requirements, because that's how the money's laundered. Now it's stamped into the system. Bitcoin and Litecoin, there's no reporting anything. It's just a transparent blockchain, and you can actually see where all the funds went. So the people use that, a lot of times banks try to use it, people that don't know. And I make them feel stupid, because I'm like, well, do you know what money laundering is? And usually they can't even explain it to me. So I said, well, it's funny you're scaring the public about a concept you can't even explain. Here's how it is. With a credit card machine and a pizzeria, you could launder more money than a crypto exchange could freaking launder. Like it, in all seriousness, just, now the cool thing is with Litecoin, there's a privacy technology built in, because again, all this transparency is great. We want to be able to audit the system and see exactly what's in it. We want to know that monetary code is tight, and they're not going to There's not going to be, we want to know the exact amount that's released and emitted over time. What's that monetary policy? How much is released? How many total supply is there going to be? Can we see it? Can we track it? But with Litecoin, it gives you the option to send a private payment out. You can still audit the system and see what's in there. But now when you're sending a payment, they can't see who it was sent from. It's sent to a privacy layer. And that's a really cool thing because now you still have the transparency of the blockchain where you can audit that exact amount of coins. But now you might say, you know what? I'm using a lot of Litecoin. It's getting a little inconvenient for me to, with so much transparency, I want something that's a little more private. It's almost like in the Venmo app, you could either let all your friends see all the payments you send, or you could set it to private. And then if you set it to private, all your friends can't see, hey, you sent Joe money for bowling. You guys were bowling Wednesday night. Why didn't you call me, kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of what it's like, basically turning your Venmo app on private.
And that technology or that functionality is what MWeb or Mimblewimble is, correct?
Yep, MWeb/Mimblewimble. Yep.
Okay. So, and that's unique to Litecoin. That isn't on Bitcoin. That isn't across all cryptocurrencies. That's specifically just with Litecoin, right?
There was one or two other cryptocurrencies, small ones that it was on before it came to Litecoin. And obviously it was, they changed how it's coded into Litecoin. It's coded into Litecoin as it's called an extension block. I don't want to get too in the weeds with everybody, but basically the last transaction of these crypto networks settle themselves out. See, like the Federal Reserve System or like the banking system settles out at nighttime, right? And then it's you send payments on the weekend. It doesn't settle out till Sunday night or whatever, right? The Litecoin network settles every 2.5 minutes. That's called a block. A block's mine. That's final settlement. Once that's settled, that's set in stone in the blockchain. So within each block, there's a certain number of transactions. It depends how busy the network is at that time. The last transaction in each block is called the extension block. And within that extension block transaction, all the transactions in MWeb or Mimblewimble are coded into that. And that's what makes it private. You can see when stuff goes into that Mimblewimble layer, you can see how many coins are floating around in Mimblewimble or MWeb, but you can't see what's going. It's like the MWeb has tints. You see the person get in the car, but then you're like, what are they doing in there? And it's like, well, I don't know. I saw them go in. I don't know what they're doing.
Interesting.
And that's what makes it cool, because it's you could still audit everything, you still see everything, but then it gives you that option of just some privacy, and so which is really important for what we're going into, because we want to have private. It's our right to privacy.
Yeah.
So we should have privacy. We don't want the bad guys being able to see everything we do. Now, Litecoin censorship resistance, even if they didn't have this privacy layer, you could still use it and send payments without them being censored or stopped. Unlike what's going to come out, it's called a CBDC.
Yes.
Which I'll tell you, that's called a central bank digital currency. And basically the government, not just the U.S. government, the governments all over the world are creating digital currency. And this money is money that they control on a blockchain that they have control. It's a private blockchain. And because blockchains are what they call programmable money, you could program certain rules and requirements into that. And the rules and requirements will be against we the people. They might say, you know what? You ate too much meat this month. You could only buy 2 pounds of steak or beef. We don't want you having it anymore. And I'm like, well, gee, I'm Jonny Litecoin. I'm lifting a lot. I need 20 pounds of beef a month, not 2 pounds. I don't like this system. Or they might say, you know what? You can't you can't buy cigarettes anymore because of whatever. And it's like, even though I'm not a cigarette smoker. I think people should have the right to smoke if they want to.
Or if
their
you have too many parking tickets, you're not allowed to go use your
go.
money until it's paid off. Or if you want to go, if you're have a crime on your record, you're not allowed to spend money outside of your zip code. The possibilities are endless when it comes to actual
We could even get a little more dystopian, but it's not that out of reach. They could say, you know what? We don't like the post you did on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's against the current regime. We don't like you're talking about a virus that's out now, or you're not using the narrative we want, and your social credit score doesn't allow for you to buy stuff at this place or that place. Yeah. So that can be a very real thing that can come. And people would say, well, no, how are people going to sign up for that? People, trust me, people will willingly sign up for that system because they'll get manipulated by the government into turning over their funds that they have now, their regular cash, their money in their bank account. The government will say you get more of this new currency. They'll give them a bonus, a reason to use it, an incentive to use it. And then once you start, and they'll do helicopter money. They'll do more stimulus checks, but it'll come in the form of a digital currency. And now it'll come with strings attached. We better hope you got that shot that we want you to get against the virus, because we sent you that stimulus money. Yeah. And if you want to keep getting your universal basic income, which that's coming too, people call it UBI, universal basic income. That's money that's given you every month from the government, like a kind of like a salary. You want to keep getting that UBI, you have to do X, Y, and Z for us. So it's and then everyone will be trapped in that system. So it's
I think that kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier about taking the easy road, having the things taken care of for you, like trading your freedom for comfort, essentially. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people nowadays don't really understand has been happening and has been programmed to happen, is that we as a society, we as a country and globally, have been pacified to the point where we don't want to have to take responsibility for our own things, our own money, our own lifestyle. We want to have someone else who can control it, and we want to rely on them to be able to do it. And that's what the government has been trying to get us into the mindset of for so long, because that's how they can control us. We'll take care of your basic income. We can just send you money, but you're going to have to give us something in return. And what we're giving them in return is truly our freedom and truly our ability to just transact or, live life in a way that is on our own terms.
Freedom and responsibility scares people. One of the most common questions I get, or comments, is people say, well, if I lose my code for Bitcoin, can't I lose all my money? And I explain, well, there is a little bit of responsibility you have to take. But I said, if you have, if I hand you $1,000 cash and you drove to a bad neighborhood, left your windows down and left it on your front seat, or left it, better yet, leave it on the dashboard and leave you in a convertible, leave the top down in a bad neighborhood. You think that $1,000 is going to be there when you get back? No. So it's the same idea. People are like, oh, well, that's cash. Why would I do that? And I'm like, you have to think that way with this stuff. It takes a little bit of personal responsibility. It's just that when it comes to digital stuff, there's always this way out for people. And they're so used to that, oh, my bank will cover it. Right. They're great, my bank. If there's an issue, and people say that all the time. Oh, no, this credit card was great. I had charges on there. I called them. They took care of it for me, Johnny. They don't ever stop to think, well, who got beat for the money? Where'd that money come from? How did you get the money back? Well, it's simple. In that environment, the business or merchant takes all liability pretty much. So if there's fraud, they take it on the chin. and then you get your money back as the card holder. Oh, it seems great, this and that. But for the business, it sucks. I've seen this shut businesses down because they had such big fraud they couldn't sustain. A lot of small businesses are, boxing term, they're kind of on a standing 8 count where they're on the ropes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's times are tough, and if they get too much fraud that comes through, that's it. They can't sustain. They can't pay the rent that month. They can't pay themselves, and they close the doors. So people don't think about that, though. They're just so used to it being taken care of for them or this way out.
Yeah, there's customer service there. There's no customer service with crypto. And that's one of the things I think that a lot of people who are new to the space have to realize, or at least learn the hard way. I definitely learned the hard way. I definitely had, because you're responsible. You're responsible for the transactions. You're responsible for securing it, for holding it. And when you do something incorrectly, like send what I did, I sent Bitcoin to a Bitcoin Cash wallet, or maybe it was the other way around, but still, it was gone. As soon as it left my wallet, it didn't land in the other wallet because it couldn't. It was the wrong code. And exactly. And so I can't, there's no one to call. You can't go to bitcoin.com and call up your representative.
Store and complain.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things that I do think turns people off or deters people from cryptocurrency, is that you are responsible for it. But that responsibility brings freedom. Freedom is easy. Freedom is hard to handle. It's hard to take personal responsibility, but it's what we need to do in order to become more free and to live outside of the systems that they're trying to create. They have created for us. That's ultimately, keeping us.
And it's so needed, Josh, because we got some good people. They love this stuff, and I carry some of it with me. Silver, right? They love silver. They love gold. So they say, Johnny, I don't need. I think we got the same exact 1 ounce bar, Sunshine.
Oh yeah. Boom.
Yeah. Cool. So people will say, "Well, Johnny, I like gold. I like silver." Some of the, you get more into an older crowd. They remember when, might remember when they were a little kid, where the coinage still had real silver in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll say, well, I like that. I don't like cryptocurrency. But here's what I have to explain to people: why silver and gold will never be used as payment again. And I don't say they won't be used as money. They might be used to back currency, but they won't be used as payment. We're in a digital world. Mm. We're not stopping this digital tidal wave that's coming after us. We're in a generation where everybody walks around with a high-powered computer on them at all times. They're staring at their phone. Everything's digital. So you need a digital payment method that works for us. It's for we the people. And that's the whole thing that I get at, is that it's not that crypto people are anti-cash. We're just trying to show you, hey, you can still have a cash-like experience in the digital world if you know about the right stuff. And again, you're not going to go to a store and pay with gold or pay with silver. You might find one or two stores that says, yeah, well, the owner's there. Sure, the owner's a smart guy. Says, I'll take your silver. Sure, I'd rather have that than fiat currency. But most of America's big box stores, chains, franchises, they ain't going to trust the kid working there to, hey, take the gold coin, make sure it's real. The kid's going to be like, I can't even count cash. Most of these kids can't count cash anymore. So it's like, where's the number that it says? I actually have a funny story about that too. We had a big meetup. It was a Bitcoin Bend meetup in New Jersey, and I connection with a lot of restaurants and being in the point of sale business. So I helped find the venue, and so I talked to the venue. We got the venue booked and whatever. It was a pretty cool bar that was in the area, and my deal was, if we do a crypto event there, you have to let us pay in cryptos, and then I show them how to do it in their payment systems. They can at least close out the sale the right way and take payment in. So they were pretty nervous at first. And through the day, I was there helping them the whole time. The staff was like, "This is easy. This is actually really easy." These payment methods are really easy because they're just. I had like table tents set up that had the QR codes with the addresses on it. So the bartender would be like, "Hey, you owe me $20," and they're like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna pay that code right there." And then they would just run up and show them their phone and say, "See, I sent $20 to that address." So they were like, "Okay, cool." They weren't even have to go on back to verify that payment came in because they were just seeing right in the person's app that it was sent. So event went great. Owner made tons of money. He was super happy with me. And he was like, "Jonny, when are we going to do another one of these events?" I said, "Oh, his name was Joe." I said, "See, Joe, you're happy now." He's like, "Oh, a lot of crypto people came out. That was great. That was great." He's like, "No, you're right. A lot of people paid with crypto." So I called him about a month or two later just to bust his balls. I said, "Hey, Joe," I said, "got another event for you." I said, "This time it's the precious metals community." And he's an older guy. He goes, "Oh, now you're talking my language, this and that." I said, "Oh, yeah, really am I?" I said, I'll get you, right? So I said, just like that crypto event, though, they want to be able to pay in gold and silver." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Yeah." I said, this is their thing." I said, "Just like we want to pay in Litecoin and Bitcoin, that's our thing. These people are in the gold and silver, so they want to be able to pay you in." I said, "Come on, Joe. I thought that this is now I'm talking your language here with this stuff, right?" He's like, "Well, how's the staff gonna know what they're getting?" I said, "Well, easy. I'll bring you in a scale, this and that, yada yada yada." So I was just doing it to bust his balls. But he really thought about it. And he's like, "No, that won't work." He's like, "It's a dark bar." He's like, "The bartender's blind pretty much. Hey, he ain't going to be able to see silver versus gold." He's like, I can't do this." He's like, "Honestly," he's like, can't they just pay in cryptos like you guys are paying?" So he thought about it and he's like, "It won't work because they're in the crypto method worked for him." Even though he was nervous at first, he didn't think it will go over smooth because it's digital. It's still what people are used to. So once they just learn a thing or two about it, they're like, "Okay, yeah, it's a digital payment." You can't go back to this as a payment because we're getting away from cash as a payment. Forget this stuff as a payment. Even though as much as I like it and love it, it might be used to back currency. Gold's the money of central banks. That's tier one asset. We know about the industrial demand for silver. Silver still has some monetary aspects to it. I still consider gold and silver as money, but they're not a payment method.
Yes. And I think to that point too, we used to, as a country, we used to have money that was backed by silver and gold. And what that means to me, something I've learned through my red pill experience, is that money, the difference between currency and money is that they're pretty much the same. They're, you can use them to transact. They're divisible, they're fungible, they're portable. The real difference between currency and money is that money is a store of wealth, which means that it's not going to change. It's not going to devalue itself because a currency can. And that's what happened to our currency once it became currency, when it left being money from having, a gold standard to having just this faith-backed, debt-backed system. So the way I see that is that, money nowadays, currency, fiat dollars, can be created out of thin air. They can be created in a bunch of different ways. The Federal Reserve can make more of it. It can be lent into existence through fractional reserve banking. Yep. So many different ways to make money. And as there's more and more money added to the pool of money, it dilutes the purchasing power of your bills, your bank account, so that the $100 that you have in your bank account or in your wallet, that's losing value day by day. And so that makes a currency in the form that it isn't holding it's not backed by anything, and it's not holding its value because it's just slowly withering away. And that's what we see in our system today, is that we don't have an asset backing our dollar besides faith, and people are storing all their wealth in fiat currency, and it's slowly being their wealth. The thing they worked hard to earn is slowly being dripped away. And even in inflation, 9% or whatever the real number is, but the number they give us, that's like saying all of the money you saved your whole life sitting in a bank, you just lost 9% of it this year. That's a lot, if you really are holding all of your wealth that way. And so that's
Yeah.
why I think holding it in something like a hard asset, like silver or gold, is great. But if you're trying to actually transact with it, cryptocurrency is clearly the way to go, because we are in a digital world, like you said.
Rewind 20 years ago, right? And say 20 years ago, March 21st, 2003, you knew you were gonna get abducted by aliens, and they were gonna bring you back 20 years in the future. And say you had $100,000 that you had in physical dollars back then. That was a lot of money in 2003, right? Now, a lot of money now, arguably, right? So you had 100 grand, and your life savings. You said, I have it in cash. I have it under the mattress, old school. I have it in a safe, wherever you have it, right? I'm getting abducted by aliens. Do I want to keep this 100 grand in these physical paper notes for 20 years? Well, if you would have said, well, let me buy gold instead and keep that. First of all, currency changes. So if you have tons of old bills, good luck even spending them at some point. I was with a friend. He broke out an old 50. The place said, we can't accept it. And they said,
Really?
He said, why not? You accept cash, don't you? He goes, the guy go, yeah, but our machine doesn't scan that. We can't accept this bill. And they would not accept it. A lot of stores won't even accept the old currency from back then. So forget that problem. Gold was about $300 an ounce back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, gold's about close to $2,000 an ounce, right? So that 100 grand that you were holding now would be over $600,000. And, that actually outpaced the inflation somewhat. But even in normal circumstances, you're going to keep up with inflation at least, where if you're just holding dollars, like you said, you're losing value. And this whole, the public's been pacified by that as well. Because another question I get with Litecoin a lot is people don't understand the concept of it changing in value. That's sometimes foreign to people, where they're like, so wait a minute, if I get that much Litecoin and then like it could go down or it can go up. I'm like, yeah, it has an exchange rate of what it's priced at in dollars. It can go up, it can go down. The idea is over time it should trend upwards. And that concept's out there to people, because we grew up, especially if you grew up in the United States, the dollar is the world reserve currency. Mm-hmm. So everything's priced in dollars all over the world. So you were just used to dollar, $1 is $1. Well, think about when you were a kid, what $100 bought you versus today, or think about how much eggs were and all this stuff was, and now it costs a lot more dollars. Why? Right. The exact concept you're talking about before. They print more money goes into that pool. It dilutes the other currency, makes it more worth less.
Yes. And that's what I think a lot of people get confused about when they're valuing the assets that they hold, which are dollar-based assets, and they see it go up. It's not necessarily that, like real estate or stocks, they see, oh, my real estate is just continuing to grow and grow and grow. It's not necessarily because the asset, the real estate is gaining value. It's because what they're being measured against, the dollar, is depreciating. And so that's one of the misconceptions that I think is really hard for people, or at least is different for people to understand when they're trying to track their own assets, is that what they're measuring it with is changing. The scale is changing. The dollar value is changing. And you're right when you say that the dollar, our American Federal Reserve note dollar, has been the world reserve currency, and it's still relatively powerful when compared to other currencies around the world. But, that's going to change. And I think just in the last 3 years, I think 40% of the dollars in existence were created in the last 3 years. And we haven't really felt the ramifications of that kind of money printing, that kind of quantitative easing is what they called it, or, stimulus. And that's going to really harm us in a way that I think will be, akin to what happened in Zimbabwe or the Weimar Republic. Once all that money really enters the market, it's going to be huge. It's going to create so much hyperinflation. This is one angle. There's different ways it could go, but this angle I'm talking about, if all that hyperinflation happens, and like you said, when bread used to be 25 cents and is now $2, bread's going to be $50 when that happens. And then all that money that you had, you might have $1 million in the bank, but if it only buys you $100 or $1,000 worth of stuff, is it even really valuable? And that's what people don't understand. And that's what I think cryptocurrency has to offer, is the fact that you can't create more. It's finite, it's
a beautiful thing.
Got a certain amount that's going to exist, and that's it.
Yeah. Hyperinflation is a scary, scary concept. And, it can happen fast. Prices, hyperinflation, so your audience knows, is the rapid acceleration of prices. And prices it's where prices are rising every day, every other day. And the most extreme cases of hyperinflation, like look at like the Weimar Republic.
Yep.
That was Germany, 1923. That happened fast. That happened real fast. And it got to the point where you'd be in a restaurant and the prices would be changing. They couldn't put price on a menu. It was changing multiple times a day just because the prices were going up that much. And a lot of it comes down to shortages, supply chain problems have a factor in there, because there's the currency's not going as far. There's more problems, more supply chain problems, more shortages, which only adds to more inflation. And then people run out and start spending their money because, once people do that, once the phenomenon kicks in where people are like, hey, wait a second, these eggs are going to be more money tomorrow, I might as well get them today. Then everyone's racing out and getting stuff faster than they normally would.
Yeah.
And that's creating more shortages and drives the prices way up, way faster than they would. And then you start going into a hyperinflation. So it can happen fast. What a lot of people don't realize is that are on fixed incomes and pensions and all that, people say, oh, Johnny, I'm good. I got a pension, retired for 20 years. I got a pension. It's like, well, you'll probably get the pension because the government will probably backstop it or do this or that. But what's it going to buy you if the dollar's hyperinflating? Yeah, you got a pension, but it didn't buy you anything anymore. Yeah, they paid you. Sure, they paid you, but it's now $50,000 could be like what $1,000 is today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it can happen fast. Just at least learn about these alternative options as a form of, at least an insurance policy. And people say, well, I don't want to be all in like you guys or be so into it. Look at it as insurance. It's good to have people have insurance, right? This is insurance against what's going on.
Diversify, and something I always hear when it comes to investments. You want to be sure you're safe with your wealth and mitigate your risk. So you try and spread it out amongst as many different asset classes as you can, so that if one goes up or one goes down, you're not going to lose your whole egg or your whole nest egg or whatever, your whole portfolio. And so, one thing that I really, as we start to wrap this conversation up, Johnny, one of the things I want to ask you is just if people are still learning just now about cryptocurrency, what are some of the things, what's some wisdom, what are some tips that you could give them just to get started?
All right. So you want to know how to use these non-custodial wallets. And that's a wallet that gives you seed words. So when you download the app or the wallet, it says write these 12 or 24 words down. Those wallets give you freedom. So you really want to understand how to use those wallets. And if you buy crypto, Litecoin, Bitcoin, whatever crypto it is, if you buy it in Coinbase, on PayPal, or in Binance, which is fine. Obviously, you have to get it somewhere. But learn how to transfer it out of there into your private wallet. You'll thank me later because A, you're going to know how to transact with this stuff, but B, you're going to protect yourself from hacks, first of all, because when your money's in Coinbase or these exchanges, it can be hacked because your money's online in a hot wallet that a third party controls. But B, you don't have possession of it. It's kind of like money at the bank. They might tell you you can get it back. They might tell you they're closed and you can't take it out now, or you have to go through KYC, or who knows what they want a picture of at that point in time, full body scan of you now, you know what I mean? And it's, we want to see little Johnny and big Johnny, so it's, so yeah, it's just learn how to use this stuff. And don't fear it. Don't think of it as a stock. Don't think of it like Apple stock or anything like that. Think of it as a currency, and the advantage over, even if you look at it as a pure investment, right? You may say, hey, I don't think things are going to go the way you guys are saying. I trust the government and whatever, but I like the idea of investing in it because it's new technology. Well, think of it at least as different than a stock, because you can't pay someone with a stock. I can't say, hey, I'm going to go send you Apple stock for these drinks, or I'm going to pay in, Meta stock or Amazon stock or whatever. Those are securities. But cryptocurrency, like I said before, it's a currency and a payment network. So never forget those aspects of it that can actually be used. That's the key thing, is that this is a new system that can be utilized to your advantage. Even if you don't want to, even if you say, hey, I don't want to use it, I'm fine using Venmo or my bank account, at least know when you buy the stuff what it offers. That way you don't think of it in your mind and lump it into the stock category.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are really good tips for people starting to get into the space, especially the wallet, especially owning your own assets in your own possession. That's a big one. So thank you for highlighting that, because I think that one thing we need to really understand is if we want to live a more free and sovereign life, we're going to have to take responsibility of our own assets, of our own wealth. And that's something that if we allocate or give to a bank, a third party, an exchange, a investment firm, we're handing over that responsibility and we're handing over that freedom. So in order to be a little bit more self-sufficient, in order to really mitigate the risk, like the true risk of having your assets being scammed away or stolen or liable to a crash in a bank or an exchange like FTX or, Silicon Valley Bank we just had, holding it in your own possession is a big deal. And having a wallet is the first step to doing that in cryptocurrency. So one last question I have for you, Johnny, as we finish up this talk, what if because cryptocurrency is such a great tool for freedom, could you just give the audience listening a little bit of, not hopium, but just encouragement as to why cryptocurrency is going to ultimately be a tool used for freedom? Do you have any tips for that, or just perspective on that?
I mean, we're going into a world of digital currencies. So you're going to have centralized digital currencies, which I highlighted before, these central bank digital currencies, or you could have decentralized currency, which are these cryptocurrencies, especially a lot of the top cryptocurrencies that are truly decentralized, like Bitcoin, like Litecoin. Think of this as freedom money. So do you want to have freedom money, or do you want to have money that's totally controlled with strings attached? Freedom money is a lot better. It's like kind of like you're a little kid and your parents are giving you money, but they're like, okay, well, now if you don't clean your room, you don't do this, you don't get the money. When you go out and make your own money, and then you're like, I can do whatever I want with it. Wow, that's a great feeling kind of thing, because you're free to do with it as you please. So that's the real thing, is that you need to crypto is going to offer you that freedom in the future where we're heading to a world by 2030. They want us to own nothing and be happy. Now, I think a lot of this push behind these NFTs and all that was to get rid of your real assets, get a JPEG that's a monkey picture that you paid all this money for. And because there's a lot of use behind the technology of NFTs, but not pictures of weird monkeys and stuff. That to me is a way to get people to say, get them used to owning nothing and be happy. So you want to still own stuff and be happy. You don't want to own nothing and be happy. I want to own stuff and be happy in the future. So to ensure that, I want to know how to use these cryptocurrencies, own some of them, at least as an insurance policy. So if they tighten up the news so much on the one side of the fiat dollars, which will be central bank digital currency in the future, you at least on the other side have the freedom to do as you want. And this is like, people prep and they save food for a rainy day. Think of this as prepping for a rainy day. You can think of it as an investment. Now, a lot of these cryptos are undervalued. You can make money. Sure, you could, but think of it at least partly as a way to prep your financial prep for the future, for what's coming. And trust me, this is going to be the future. There's never been a glitch, a stoppage in the Litecoin network. It's ran flawlessly for 11 plus years. So if you have to send someone a large sum of money and someone said, Johnny, your life is on the line. If that payment fails, you're going to blow to pieces. We have like a bomb attached to you or something that blows up if the payment fails. How are they going to send the money? I would honestly say the Litecoin network I would trust. If my life was on the line, I'd say send it through that Litecoin network. It's never failed in 11 plus years. A block is mined every 2.5 minutes flawlessly. It's never failed. It's never stopped. So I don't expect that to change in the future because, again, Litecoin only gets stronger as time goes on. It doesn't get weaker. So that's my hopium. And then obviously, as far as keeping your purchasing power, remember, we're going into a digital world. So these top digital currencies, especially ones that are what I call a digital commodity that costs money to create, especially like Bitcoin, like Litecoin that have the mining, they're going to have real value in the future. There's a commodity value because there's a cost of creation, a cost of production. So generally all commodities will stay above that cost of creation and that cost of production. So know that you're at least going to keep up with inflation.
Thank you so much for that, Johnny. That is a lot of really good information that I think a lot of newbies, even myself, don't totally grasp all the time when it comes to crypto. And so I just appreciate you coming on, sharing so much information. And, I know that's something that you're so good at doing out there in the interwebs, is continuing to share that knowledge, because this knowledge is really power, and taking that power and applying it to our lives is what gives us freedom. And I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about among all of these topics. And so I'd love to, continue this conversation with you in the future, because you're truly a wealth of knowledge and someone I really respect and look up to. And I think the people that listen to us and that listen to you could learn a lot from these kinds of conversations.
Awesome, Josh. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm definitely passionate about this stuff. I mean, I could talk about this stuff for hours. Freedom, money, and how to get out of the system, your lifeboat, the freedoms. Whenever you want to have me back on, happy to do it. But yeah, for me, guys, it's passion. It's passion of getting out of that system. And again, let's build this digital system and this digital future, at least to a way that we like it, that works for us. So a lot of people are bitter about this digital wave that's coming. Don't be bitter. Embrace it, and let's make it work for we the people. Let's not make it work just for the bad guys. Let's say, hey, bad guys, we want it to work for us too, because that's how America was founded, on small government, The people have to say, we're the boss of the politicians. They're not our boss. We're the president's freaking boss. We're everybody's boss. We elect them in. It's just that the government's gotten so big, we look at it as, wow, these powerful people. It ain't supposed to be like that. So we need to take the power back, and a great way to do it is by securing your own assets, knowing about freedom money and how to do this stuff. So whenever you want to have me back on, Josh, happy to do it. Thanks for letting me talk to your audience.
Oh my gosh, of course. And you are so right. We have the power. It's in our control. We can take back what this nation was founded on, which is truth and freedom. And it's all we have to do is really just educate ourselves, educate our community, teach the people around us how we can do this. And so together we will be able to create this future, and together we'll be able to navigate the change that's coming rapidly a little bit better as we continue to learn and teach each other. And so again, you guys, you can find Jonny at on Twitter with what's your handle exactly? Is it Jonny Litecoin?
At Jonny Litecoin, Jonny.
Yes. So you can find him there. He's posting all the time. He's doing videos. He's retweeting really good information. I enjoy your feed a lot, Jonny. So you can find him there. And if you guys listening at home are enjoying this conversation, please make sure to like and subscribe. We are trying our best to create a platform where people can learn and educate themselves, so that as we continue to navigate this changing world, we'll be able to do it with grace and with ease. And so give this video a like, give this channel a subscribe, and check out our Patreon, because that's also where the majority of the interviews are going to live. And also find us on Twitter. We're all over the place. So check out our website, pebbletonpost.com, for more. And until then, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Jonny, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciated all the knowledge you gave us. And so we'll be having you on again sometime. And until then, guys, we'll see you at the next one.